All right. Happy Thanksgiving week, everybody. Special edition of First and Pod. Things are a little bit upside down for us this week with the Thanksgiving holiday. So we figured instead of putting out a podcast Friday morning when everybody's at home and dealing with their families and craziness and whatnot, we come to you after the Harbaugh Bowl, Ravens and Chargers, and we preview for you the games that are going to come up on Thanksgiving and Black Friday. Again, subscribe, tell your friends. This is where you get analysis on every game, previews of every game. Subscribe, rate, review the podcast, wherever you download it. Doesn't matter. Just make sure you subscribe on any of the basic platforms where you get podcasts. Pat, Mike Tomlin, your old coach and the guy I have been around for almost 20 years now, has an old saying, you don't live in your fears. Well, John Harbaugh took that to the extreme. In this game, the turning point play was when he decided to go for it on 4th and 1 at his own 16-yard line. And I honestly thought it was one of the dumbest things I've seen in an NFL game that he would do that in that situation and take Lamar Jackson, not off the field, but put him behind the de facto quarterback who was Mark Andrews on that play. And then Andrews, the tight end, took the snap. Ricard and Henry, Philly style, pushed him for a first down, and they ended up scoring a touchdown on that drive. And I thought that was where the game, even though LA got a field goal at the end of the first half, I thought stealing that touchdown, Pat, was where the game flipped for them. And it's it truly is one of those things where if it didn't work and the Ravens lost the game, John Harbaugh would be getting his ass chewed out on national television and in Baltimore tomorrow, but it worked. And that's not the play that I would have come up with on 4th and inches in that situation, Pat.
Well, I didn't mind it at all, the play call, but the position that they was in during that time, I thought it was a little risky. But Mark Andrews, I thought that was a better option just because it's a bigger body frame. You know, he's gonna fall forward nine times out of 10. So I didn't have a problem with the play call, but for it to be on their own 16-yard line, that was a bit risky. But they end up, like you said, scoring a touchdown. The Chargers end up kicking the field goal to close out at the end of the game. But one thing that Coach Aaron used to always say, man, if you can double dip as far as scoring a touchdown before halftime, 9 times out of 10. You're going to win the ball game, and that's what the Baltimore Ravens did. They scored a touchdown. The Los Angeles Chargers, they scored 3 points, and it came down at the end. It wasn't enough for them to end up winning that ball game, but it was a very exciting first half. Then the Ravens just came out in the second half and just played bully ball, really running the ball behind Derrick Henry, who had 140 something yards today. Lamar Jackson didn't have a really big game in the passing game, but he played really, really efficient with 16 of 22.
He ended up throwing 3 touchdowns quietly in this game, right?
Yeah, exactly. 16 of 22, 177 yards, 3 tubs. And those two, to me, the turning moment in that game was those 2 key 4th down conversions, the one at the end of the third quarter and Derrick the one Henry at the beginning of the 4th quarter in that same drive. So they end up capitalizing on that as well. So this was a good, solid team win for the Baltimore Ravens, although they started off a little shaky in the first quarter, spotting the Chargers 10 points. But Lamar Jackson, man, he's just never out of a game. He always finds a way to will his team back into the ball game. And there it is again. Now we just need to see this in the playoffs.
I told you I didn't think he'd play 2 bad games in a row.
Yeah,
and I think what we're seeing from the Chargers is that their defense is good. Not as good as the stats say, though, because of the teams they put up those numbers against. Now the last 6 quarters, they look more they've come back to our solar system here. Okay. They were in another universe. Now what they've done here with the Bengals in the second half and then the 4 quarters against the Ravens, they gave up 30 points in this game. They hadn't given up more than 20 before the game against Cincinnati. So, I really don't take them. They're more a dark horse team. I don't take them seriously as like a contender this year. They won 5 games last year. This was about instilling a new culture and everything else with the Chargers. And so Jim Harbaugh is going to successfully do that, but they're still not on par with the team they just lost to. I'd say they're not on the same level as even the Chiefs or the Steelers, the Bills, definitely not. They've got young receivers, and Johnson's had a good year, but my God, the drops.
Too many drops. Yeah, too many drops.
Too many drops. I think the offensive line's got talent. I think it's a little up and down. And then the Dobbins injury killed them in this game. I mean, he was averaging over 6 yards a carry. He went out and it completely changed their offense. And the main complaint has always been there about Greg Roman is that he can scheme run, but he can't scheme pass. And so I just wonder, they're a team, I do believe, Pat, that's a front-running team. They get ahead in games, they're good. They get behind in games, you make them one-dimensional, they're not as good.
Right.
And Baltimore, how about their pass defense turnaround? They did not give up a passing play of more than 20 yards in this game tonight. And they were the worst passing defense in the league two weeks ago.
Yeah, but they also didn't play any top-notch receivers.
True.
So, yeah, I mean, this is, this can be,
But it's Herbert, and Herbert can slice you up and dice you up.
Yeah, he is, but also he's not throwing to no even B-list receivers. Both of those guys are young.
That's why I think you agree with me. I mean, they're still a year away, maybe more.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you 100%. Yeah, they're not there just yet, because watching this game today, you can see if this team gets behind, it's going to be hard for them to get back into the game being one-dimensional, focusing on the run. And evidently, if J.K. Dobbs not in the ball game, it's hard for them to get any push in their running game. So they're going to need him moving forward, and also they have to find ways to not get behind, because at the end of the day, they wasn't too far behind too far in points until that second touchdown after they converted those 2 4th-down conversions. So it was never really out of the game. But when the proof, it looks like if you get this team behind, it's going to be a struggle for them to get back in the game if they have to rely on a pass game.
Pat, what's happened here? I feel like in the last 2 or 3 weeks of watching games, they're calling every defensive pass interference in the book. I mean, they are calling these little ticky-tack. I mean, tonight there was 3 or 4 of these things where they showed the replay, and even Troy Aikman, who's a quarterback's like, that's not pass interference.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think it's an officiating crew thing, or do you think it's a memo from the league? Because I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it just feels like this week especially, it's just tough, man, as a defensive back when they're calling it that close.
No, man, sometimes it's just a crew thing, because every Friday, everybody knows what crew we're going to have, how they rank amongst the crews across the league in certain areas. So you have to know when you're going into the game, what crew that you have. You might have a crew that calls the game very tight. You might have a crew that may let you be a little handsy.
Would that affect the way you play?
No doubt about it.
Because wow.
Because if like for me, I always wanted to know the refs, the back judge, and the field judge, where do they rank in PIs and holdings? If they rank anywhere in the top, I know it's going to be, I ain't going to get away with much. If they're anywhere in the middle towards the bottom, then I know I can get away with a couple of things, because they're going to holler at your boy, be like, AOP, hey, come on now, get your hands off him. You got some refs, they don't even give you no warnings, especially if the ball's not even going to the guy. That'd be the worst.
Would you feel like there were officials that for whatever reason liked you and ones who didn't? So even if the rankings were a certain way, you'd be like, oh, crap, it's this guy again.
No, not really. I always had good running into with the refs, man. I always try to stay on their good side.
Okay. So you weren't cussing them out and telling them how bad they were at their job. Here's the last one on this game for you. I know you're a dad. You've got 2 daughters. Can you put yourself in Jack Harbaugh's shoes? You've got your 2 kids coaching again. It happened in a Super Bowl. I mean, the biggest game in the entire sport. Mm-hmm. But just how hard that must be when you've got 2 siblings that want the same thing, which is to win a game. Like I only have 1 daughter, but I just can't, as a parent, fathom how you'd handle that.
Yeah, especially at the highest level. I don't know how they would handle that. It just seems like it's a lot more fun and games because it seemed like the dad has the same personality and charisma about himself as Jim.
I
So I could,
agree. I think he's
yeah,
way more like Jim.
yeah. So I can just see it never being a dull moment. So
Do you
I could
feel
just
like
see
you
the
have a
dad.
daughter that would handle winning better than the other? Like just
No,
the
both of my kids are sore losers, both of them. Both of them. They ain't no get them next time, this, that, and the other. Nah, they're both of them are sore losers, can't stand to lose. Gonna throw a fit if they lose. It's never a good outing. So anytime they're racing me, I have to let them win because I want to enjoy the rest of my day.
That's funny because we've had the Kelsey Bowl and the Super Bowl, and we had the Harbaughs, and now John Harbaugh, by the way, is 3-0 all
Three and
time
zero.
against his brother. So that's got to eat at Jim. All right,
Mm.
let's get to the games on Thanksgiving. Bears and Lions. Can Caleb put a scare in Detroit? The Lions are a huge favorite here, but we just watched Caleb on Sunday play one of his best games against Minnesota. Can he do things in this game to make, people are getting ready to eat their turkey on Thanksgiving? Are they going to see this game in the fourth quarter and it's going to be close, Pat?
I don't think so. I think Detroit wins by 10. I don't think Caleb will have an opportunity to burst the Detroit Lions bubble just because the Detroit Lions haven't given up a touchdown in the last 2 weeks defensively.
Yep.
And I feel like the defense is now really, really, Aaron Glenn got the guys really flying around and he's really in his bag as far as scheming up plays, putting guys in position to be successful, and just really having a quarterback think on where the ball should be going in those passing down situations. So I love what Aaron Glenn and how he has those guys playing at the championship level. And quite honestly, man, just Jared Goff. I think this is going to be one of those games, a bounce back game. I know the Chiefs, not the Chiefs, the Bears have a pretty solid defense, but this is also a divisional foe, so they know each other very well. They kind of know each other in the ins and outs of one another. But I expect Jared Goff to have a big game against this I want to keep saying Cleveland against this Chicago Bears defense on Thanksgiving evening. They're the first game, right?
The first game. Yep.
Yeah, I expect Jared Goff to have at least 2 tubs and Detroit win by 10.
Spence, if you get a second here, see if you can get the numbers on Goff last year against Chicago, because I felt like the Bears should have gone 2-0 against the Lions last year. They needed one game. They were up, I think, 2 scores with 4 minutes left, and they blew it against Detroit, and then they won the other game. So, Eberflus is a defensive coach. He's somebody that typically does not really like to blitz and tries to rely on his front to get pressure. And to their credit, they did against that great Detroit offensive line last year. So I'm not saying it's a good matchup. That would be disrespectful to Detroit to say that the Bears defense is equal to them with what they've done this year.
Mm-hmm.
But we touched on this. We did this last Thursday with the Steelers and Browns. I just don't think Chicago's intimidated by Detroit. And if I were a Detroit fan, me personally, their road to get to a Super Bowl, I would prefer not to have to play the Vikings and Packers. I don't want to see a team a third time that's familiar with me and knows what I do. And I think that kind of brings the two teams closer together. So he's bringing up the stats. Last year, Goff had 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions in the first game against them. Was not good. So I'll answer the question. I think that I think it will be a close game. And I think we'll be saying afterwards similar things to what we said about the Chicago-Minnesota game. Detroit won. Detroit did what it needed to do. It made a few plays late in the game to do it, whether it's a Jahmyr Gibbs run or an Amon-Ra St. Brown catch or a Za'Darius Smith sack or something like that. But people come out of the game thinking Caleb Williams is a player. Short week, it's tough. You talk about that. Short week can be difficult, but maybe that dumbs down what Detroit is going to do, Pat, and makes it more of a Jimmy's and Joe's game and not an X's and O's game.
Mm.
And we know that Caleb Williams likes to play the backyard football thing pretty good. So
Yeah.
last year, Goff was 3 touchdowns and 5 picks against Chicago. I think it'll be a good game.
That's not good. But that's why I'm looking for Jared Goff to bounce back big on Thanksgiving in his
Will they score
backyard.
more than 40 points?
No, I'm not gonna give them 40. They will score.
They can score 50, so that's why I'm throwing that out there. We've seen
Yeah.
that a couple times this year.
We have seen that a couple times. They'll score 30 points.
If I told you Detroit was going to score 27 points in this game, would you say that's enough to win?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%.
So you don't see Caleb Williams putting on like a huge offensive firework game then. All right.
No. We got the Dolphins and the Packers. Green Bay is only a 3-point favor. Who are you picking?
I think Green Bay, we ended up on the podcast Sunday night, Monday morning, spending a lot more time on what San Francisco didn't do in that game than what Green Bay did. And the thing I loved about the Packers in that game against San Francisco was that they did a lot of the things that they were successful doing when Love was hurt. They friggin' kicked San Francisco's ass in that game, man.
They did.
Josh Jacobs had 3 touchdowns. They went out there and they won both lines of scrimmage against a team that's got high-end players, and Bosa didn't play. But, San Francisco's invested a lot of money in its lines, and Green Bay got the much better of them in that matchup. So I actually think it's pretty disrespectful that they're only a 3.5-point favorite in this game, as Spence put up here on our YouTube page. And the game is going to get played, Pat, in 26-degree weather.
I had a very interesting stat about that.
Is what they're saying. However, I got a weird feeling that Green Bay is going to go in there and win. I mean, Miami's going to go in there and win. I have a weird feeling that you're shaking your head no because you're a lifelong Dolphins fan and you're scarred by things that happened 20 years ago that have no bearing on this game, Pat. Okay, the ghosts of Dante Culpepper or whatever are not going to rear their ugly head in this game on Thanksgiving night.
Well, you want let me just read off some stats for you. In the last 20 years, when the game is played in 50 or below weather, the Dolphins are 2-19. If the game is played in 40 degrees or below, the Dolphins are 8-18. In the past 10 games, they are 0-10, and they lost by an average of 17 points.
Oh God!
If the weather is 70 degrees and under, the Dolphins are 6-13. If the weather is 70 degrees and higher, the Dolphins are 23-4. So I'm just going to go with the history. What the history is telling me is, you said it's going to be 20-something degrees. Let's go down to history. 24 and below, the Miami Dolphins is 8-19. In the past 10 games, they are 0-10, my brother, and they lost by an average of 17 points.
Well, I've got it pulled up right here on the app, man. They're saying that it's going to be at night, it's going to be a high of like 29. It's going to be somewhere 29. They're getting off the bus and they're going to see their breath and they're going to freak out.
They already lost.
Right now, I like Tua more than Jordan Love. You disagree?
Yes.
What if the game was played on a neutral field in a dome? Who would you pick?
Now that's a good question. Who would I pick if?
Because you're picking Mother Nature to win this game for Green Bay right now.
I am. I would still take
Green Bay a game ball if they win.
I'll still take Green Bay just off the simple fact on how physical that they're playing. I feel like Miami is a finesse team. They don't really have that greediness about their football team, far as controlling the line of scrimmage with a running attack. And I think that's going to hurt them, especially in this game, because it's going to be a cold weather game. They're going to be in the elements. I'm sorry. You said if there's that neutral site. Yes. Even if there's that neutral site, I feel like the Green Bay Packers is a way more physical football team than the Miami Dolphins. I think that is something that's going to lean and then it's going to wear and tear on the Miami Dolphins to where they're just going to fold in the fourth quarter. That's just my opinion.
It's a huge game for them because if they win this, they can start to believe that they can turn their season around with Tua. He's played so well, 11 touchdowns since he's come back. But if they lose, you said the cold weather thing, there's also just the stats of how they play against teams with a winning record since Mike McDaniel's their head coach, and it's just embarrassing. Spence might be able to pull up those numbers. They're just not good, and we saw it last year. They ended up losing the division because their back part of the schedule was so hard, and then they ended up getting blown out in Kansas City in a game where I think the high of that game was like -4.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they might have nightmares and flashbacks to that horrible situation. Raiders and Chiefs, this is on Black Friday. Do the Chiefs need to win this game big? Patrick said, I'd like to see some blowouts. We want some blowouts. Do you see a blowout here?
No, I don't see a blowout just because, well, actually, I do see a blowout. The Raiders they're packed up right now. I mean, only player I see playing.
Here we go again. We're talking about Cabo and Mexico.
Yep. And I'm gonna change it up this time. They're going to the Maldives. They're gonna go a little bit further. Only person I see on the Raiders playing, like their life depended on is Max Crosby. Everybody else seems to be out there just to be out there. I won't necessarily say guys out there making business decisions, but they're just gonna. Yeah, he said that a couple of weeks ago, but I just feel like the Chiefs. This is the game for them to really hone in on their offensive execution, being able to move the ball up and down the field. Also, this is a great challenge for them to be able to work on their line, because now we already know what Max Crosby is going to bring to the table. They don't really have anybody else that can threaten you as far as a pass rusher. So now you understand we already know we got to find where 98 is. We're going to slide the protection to his side, and then see if that left or right tackle is able to hold up on their own when that time is given. But I don't see this game being close. I see this being like a coming out party for the Kansas City Chiefs offense and their first double-digit win of the season.
It's amazing. I love this podcast because sometimes you catch yourself in real time. You're like, wait a minute. What I was about to say is actually dead wrong. But you made good points. The Raiders do live for these Chiefs games. Last year, this is what got Antonio Pierce the full-time job after Josh McDaniels got fired. They went on Christmas Day to Kansas City, and they won the game outright, and they had their bus circle the stadium and beep the horn afterwards, and they acted like they had just won the Super Bowl. That's how petty they were about it. Nathan O'Connell was the starting quarterback that day, and it looks like he's going to come off the IR and start for them now that Gardner Minshew is done for the season. I just think that with Kansas City, no matter who they're playing, they find a way to let the other team hang around in the game. And so I think that taking Crosby out of the game is easier said than done, given how personally he takes these games, how much of a rivalry he's got with Mahomes. So I'm going to say no. I'm going to say it's a one-score game again, even though the Chiefs are at home and should win the game by like 50. Last year on Black Friday, we saw a one-sided game. It was the Dolphins and friggin' Jets. Remember the dude threw a Hail Mary and it got returned?
Oh, yeah.
I've never seen anything like that.
That was who was that? The safety number 8.
Well, it was Tim Boyle who threw it for the Jets, but I forget who returned it for the Dolphins.
Yeah, it's a young safety, man.
How does that happen?
That was
one of the worst looks. That's the Jets for you, though. They come up with bizarre ways to look bad. No, so I mean, your logic makes all the sense in the world, but I just feel like when these two teams get together, random ass shit happens, and I think the Raiders will be in the game because they're acting all week like this is the game that will define who they are all offseason.
Right. Yeah.
And that was your gut. They always say when you took a test, trust your gut. And it sounded like your gut was going to say no, not a blowout. But then you pulled a fast.
Then I had to think about it. All right, the big one. You got not the big one, but the last game of Turkey Day. We got the Giants Cowboys. What team will make the most sense for Daniel Jones? Hold on.
Well, everybody thought he was going to end up in Dallas. And the Cowboys website had already put up, like they had already made a graphic announcing that Daniel Jones was going to go there. And then he's not signed with anybody. He's still available. Pat, I think he should go to San Francisco. I think that's where I would want to go from him. And there's no team. I don't think that there's a situation where he's just going to parachute in and play. If I were him, I don't even think I'd want to go to a bad team and just be their starting quarterback and take a beating and have people think that I, can't get it done. I'd want to go to a place where if I got my shot with the weapons they have or with the coaching there, I might actually look good. And given San Francisco and Purdy's shoulder injury and the fact that we saw Brandon Allen play against the Packers on Sunday, I think they're dying for a competent backup quarterback. And Daniel Jones would also give them, he's not better than Purdy, but he'd give them a different look because of his mobility that we have not really seen in their offense. They drafted Trey Lance to be that dual threat quarterback, and it never worked out or panned out. I wonder if Kyle Shanahan would be intrigued by that with the Daniel Jones, Pat.
I mean, I'm not opposed to that. I like that. I like that proposal. Daniel Jones going with Kyle Shanahan. I think he fits that offense too on the way Daniel Jones throw the football. He has a very strong arm. He can fit it in tight windows inside the numbers. And Daniel is one of those guys that can throw the ball outside the numbers, and that can just give you a five-step drop.
He's got more physical tools than Purdy. One guy was drafted in the top 10, and the other guy was the last pick of the draft. There's no comparing the two in that respect.
Yeah, 100%. So he can definitely do something over that. I think, like I said, I think the Kyle Shanahan offense and scheme fits well with Daniel Jones. What it would do too, it'll give him an opportunity to see the game in a different light, being able to be much more of a game manager and not more of a risk taker, because that's pretty much what he was when he was in New York. Because you got to think about it, Saquon was rarely in the lineup, and when he was, Daniel wasn't the best, but he looked better than he did when he had an efficient running game behind him, supporting the offense. So I'm not mad at that, but that idea that you brought up with Daniel Jones.
Do you like Dallas as a fit?
Hey, I would love the Dallas Cowboys to pick him up, just to be petty and have him go out there and play them twice and hopefully kick their ass.
Dude, if he went to the Cowboys and actually did look good, if I were Brian Dable and Joe Shane, the GM there, I would just already, the for sale signs would be on my house the second he played a good game. Because there's only so much that family can take as far as these embarrassing guys leave and transform their careers. And Xavier McKinney's going to be an all-pro safety, and Saquon Barkley's might win the MVP award. Yeah. And you got 2 wins and you haven't won a home game all year.
Mm-hmm. So, hey, I just saw McKinley got more interceptions than the whole Giants team.
Correct.
That's crazy. That's crazy. That is crazy.
Did you ever play on Thanksgiving?
I did. New England Patriots, and we won. And I took the famous dry ass turkey leg that NBC provide for the team. Oh my gosh, that'd be the driest turkey leg that I ever.
Did you say it on TV and say, "What is this garbage"?
I think Kirk did. I did not say it on TV. Somebody, I think Kirk or Thielen said it on television, but it was pretty dry, man. They got to do a better job of.
So this was the Vikings Patriots game from a few years ago.
Yep. So my advice for NBC is they have to do a better job. They can't cook the turkey in the morning and have it out all day and then expect the turkey to be nice and moist. No, man, we got to time that sucker up, man. It's the NFL. We got It's $1 billion industry. We can have some type of conventional oven out there by the TV trailers and this, that, and the other. Have that sucker in there for about 3-4 hours. Let it heat up, and then bring it to the field. You got to give the guys the proper experience. That's all I'm asking. And the guys are asking that too. They're just scared to ask.
I don't like to. I'm not a dark meat guy.
Yeah, me either. Yeah,
so like the turkey leg part, the leg part would not interest me, whether it was cooked right or not. Also, I don't know. I think I'd look funny eating on TV like that, and I would be too self-conscious to actually do it. Because I can remember Roethlisberger did that when they beat the Colts on Thanksgiving, and I just thought he looked so awkward doing it. But you probably made it look cool.
Hey man, I ain't give a damn.
What do you have any? Spence wanted us to just maybe give a best bet or two here from Thanksgiving. Is there anything, or Black Friday? Is there anything that you feel like is a good idea for our listeners and viewers to tap into for these games?
Anything?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Can be
Let's
a prop,
see what.
Can be a.
Let's
can be
see.
a spread. Can be a total.
Hold on. Let me pull up my app. I'll tell you right now. Let's go. We got NFL. All right, so I'm gonna run off the games. We got Chicago is getting 10.5.
Yep.
The over under is 48.5. We got the Giants is getting 4. The over under is 37. Hey, I like the over in that game. In that Giants Dallas.
Cooper Rush versus Tommy DeVito. You're going over.
Yeah. Miami, Green Bay. I already told you that's a lot. I like Green Bay. And Black Friday.
Money line or spread?
I'm going money line on the. I'm not money line. I'm going spread. I like Green Bay giving a 3.5.
Okay.
I will buy down the points in the Chicago-Detroit game. 10.5 is just way too much. But I like Detroit to win by, like I said, double digits. Did I say double digits for that game?
You said yes. You said double digits.
All right. If I said double digits, I got to back my word up there. I'm taking Detroit with the spread.
Okay. 10.5.
Yeah, I'm taking Detroit with the spread.
And then
I'm taking
the over in Giants Cowboys.
Yep. Taking the over in that game, and I'm taking Green Bay.
So that would pay out plus 620 if you did those three.
Minus
10.5, over 37.5, Packers minus 3.5. I am going to bet the under. I'm going to parlay the under in all 4 games. Under 48.5 for the Lions, Bears. Under 37.5 for Cowboys, Giants. Under 47.5 in cold weather for Packers, Dolphins. Under 42.5 in Raiders, Chiefs. A $10 bet on that would win you $117. I just think on holidays like this, people want to bet overs and wait for points and root for points. And I think that unders are more valued. So I'll be the one guy who's saying, no, don't score a touchdown, kick a field goal, or punt. Well, I think that's what money is.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a firework day on Sunday, regardless who the quarterback is.
Not for Miami, because they're going to be freezing their buns off, is what you said. Tyreek's going to want to be next to them.
Yeah, that's the only team that's not going to have any high-power success is the Miami Dolphins. So.
Well, we'll be back on Sunday night. We'll recap all the big Week 13 games then. We'll recap some of these Thanksgiving games too. Hey, Pat, happy Thanksgiving to you and your family.
Happy Thanksgiving to you as well, Pony.
Thank you. Same thing to Spencer, and thanks and happy Thanksgiving to all of our listeners out there. That's what makes this podcast go, is your involvement, your interest in it. Keep listening, keep subscribing, and that'll help us make this even better. We'll be back Sunday. Thanks for listening to First and Pod.